I really want to welcome you this morning and thank you for taking time to come to the presentation. What this represents is an opportunity that we're hoping to provide on an annual basis to make sure that everybody in the department gets the same information and some basic information about all the work that's done in our department and the challenges and opportunities that we all face together. We're a very large and diverse department, and oftentimes it's easy to get stuck in the work that we do on a day-to-day basis and not to know what else is happening in this building or happening through this department. And we want to try and open that up a little bit more. Want to be able to have a dialogue that invites you to present questions to me and to our management team if you have concerns or questions about things in the department, and to make that an open dialogue. And I think the starting point with that is to get us all kind of on the same level in terms of what's going on, what happens here, and how we function. So that's really what today's about. It's about looking forward on how we're going to meet the demands of the future through innovation and efficiency. You're going to hear me talk a lot about innovation and automation during the presentation, because I think those are the hallmarks of this department, and that's a tribute to all of you. So 4 things really that I'm going to go over in the presentation. One, I want to celebrate with you some awards and recognition that we received in 2009. We had a phenomenal year in 2009. A lot was accomplished, and that's been recognized by outside organizations as well as organizations here within LA County. So I want to be sure that you're all aware of that. I want to go through some departmental highlights, and in that sense, give you kind of the broad picture of all the work that's done in the department, and what the volume of work is like, how that relates to other jurisdictions throughout the state of California and the country, and where we fit into that picture. I want to introduce you to a new mission statement for the department and a set of goals, 4 goal areas that we're going to ask that everybody take time to reflect on the work that you do and how it intersects with those 4 goal areas. I want to talk about our fiscal climate. I know that that's weighing on everybody's mind. We're all aware of the economic situation in our community and that the county faces. We know that there are some challenging times that we've been going through and challenging times ahead, so I want to be sure we all have the same information about that. And then finally concluding with just some characteristics that I want all of us to have in terms of meeting the demands of the future. So let me jump into this with the awards and recognition. Again, I think it's important for all of you to know that you work in a department that is considered a leader. We're a leader in the functions that we provide, whether that be recorder, county clerk, or registrar of voters functions. We have had some great success in the last couple of years, and that's been recognized by people here in the county, people at the statewide level, and even at the national level. We've received some great awards and recognition, and that's a great tribute to all of you, and you should be proud of that. So let me start by sharing some awards that we received from state and national associations. The California State Association of Counties, which is the organization here in California that represents the interests of all of the counties throughout the state, and they do an annual awards process where you submit papers about projects that you've completed, new programs you've instituted, and then they issue awards. We received the 2009 Challenge Award for the Voters with Specific Needs Sensitivity Training video that was produced out of our Election Services Bureau, and I see Julia and Nelson in the back of the room, and they did a lot of work on that. And what that means is the video that we put together and the training that we did around sensitivity to voters with disabilities has been shared with all the other counties in the state of California and is used as a model now for their programs. Likewise, the National Association of Counties, which is that umbrella organization that represents the interests of counties all over the country, all the counties in the nation, also issues National Achievement Awards, recognition awards for innovative programs each year. And in 2009, we actually received 5 of those awards. Pretty amazing for our department to receive that kind of recognition, and that reflects well, not just on all of you, but on LA County as a whole. And those 5 programs were, again, the Voters with Specific Needs video training was recognized at the national level, our Enhanced Student Poll Worker program out of the Election Services Bureau, our online poll worker training program, the program our Human Resources Division put together called Safety First, which was injury prevention training for temporary election workers, which of course is really important in our department because we rely on temporary employees in order to conduct our elections. So it's important that we make sure that they're working in a safe environment and that they have the services available to them. And then the 5th program that we were recognized nationally with was the ballot remake system. That's a system that was built by our Tech Services Bureau in conjunction with the Election Preparation Bureau that helps us to more efficiently process provisional ballots and remake ballots during the canvassing period. Right here in LA County, the Los Angeles County Quality and Productivity Board annually assesses projects from among the county departments and also recognizes those. In 2009, we received a special merit award recognizing the Vote You Count voter outreach and education campaign that we conducted in 2008. And we received certificates of recognition for our departmental surveillance camera system and for the Safety First Injury Prevention program that I mentioned earlier. So what you can see there is at 3 different levels here within our own community, within our own state, and even nationally, our programs are recognized and used as models within our areas of expertise. We're also a part of 2 peer organizations, the National Association of County Recorders, Clerks, and Election Officials, and the National Election Center. Those are organizations of my colleagues, your colleagues, that get together on an annual basis for training and sharing of resources and information. Both of those organizations have a best practices submission each year that drives the content of their national conferences. So they ask for papers to be submitted, and then they're reviewed, and if your paper is recognized as a best practice, then you're invited to come to the conference and make a presentation on that to, again, with the idea being that we can take away those best practices from other jurisdictions and implement them in our jurisdictions. In 2009, the National Association of County Recorders, Clerks, and Election Officials gave us the Best Practice Award in the Records Management category for the LA Vitals program. That's the system that was built in-house by our Tech Services Bureau in partnership with the Public Records Division. It's the system that you see on the first floor of the building, the kiosks, where people can now come in and self-service, look up the documents that they need, and then go to the cashiering system. So that was recognized as a best practice. We also received notation in the Land Records Management section for the Enterprise Recording Archive, our recording system, phase 2 of that was implemented in 2009, and for the 2000 election report that was published with all the statistical data from the 2008 presidential election. The National Election Center, which actually represents election officials all over the country as well as in other countries, awarded us their Eagles Award for Outstanding Use of Technology. That was in recognition for our use of new media as a tool to enhance election transparency. So that had a lot to do with the services that we now have available on our website related to elections and voting. And we also received recognition for the Vote You Count voter outreach program and for the election data reporting, the election report from 2008. So our peers, and the first one were these parent organizations that looked at our programs and recognized them. These particular organizations are organizations of our peers where they selected our practices to be presented at their conferences. And again, that's a reflection on all of you and the work that you do. I also want to make mention of the work that you do here in our own community, in our own neighborhood. We as a department do a lot to contribute back to our community and to each other here as a family or a department here within this building. We participated in the City of Norwalk's Angel Tree donation program, in which we were able to provide gifts of clothing and toys for 100 children right here in the Norwalk area who were in need during the holidays, and we also raised cash donations of over $300 for that program during the holidays. We participate each year in the March of Dimes Walk for Babies, and that's a county-sponsored fundraising event, charitable fundraising event that all county departments participate in, and as a mid-sized county, we always rise to the top of that list and receive a top team award, and we did that once again in 2009. And our own Carol Williams, who you all know because she's the one who comes around and asks you for money for March of Dimes, was recognized as a top team captain and a Shining Star Walker in that program as well. New in 2009, we now offer a Toastmasters International program here in our building on Wednesday at lunchtime and in the evening. What that is a program that allows people on their own time to come together and develop their public speaking and presentation skills. So it's something that people here in the building as well as people in our community are able to participate in, and we were real pleased to offer that. It's had a great deal of participation, and actually we've now reached a level where we're going to be chartered as a member of that international organization. So great things coming out of that, and we're seeing the rewards of that in our Wednesday management meetings where we have presentations made on all of the programs and services around the building, and you can really see the skills that have developed of people who have participated in that program. Likewise, we annually participate in the American Red Cross Blood Drive here in this room, where we set up for people to come and donate blood. Obviously, really important right now as we look at the tragedies that recently happened in Haiti and the need to support the Red Cross in those efforts. And our department always has a great rate of participation in that. And again, just as a reflection of your care for the community and the people that we serve here. Our social committee is very active, does a lot of work to serve all of us here in the department as well as people in the community. Last year we had the Employee Appreciation Lunch where over 900 employees were provided lunch, and we had a gift drawing that went well into the afternoon. I was amazed by the amount of gifts they had. I think it was really a great way to celebrate the work that's done in the department. Of course, we have our Halloween costume contest every year out in the quad, which is always fun to see the creativity that goes on there. But beyond that, and I think, again, most importantly, and what you should all be proud of is the work that we do as employees to support those in need. During the Thanksgiving holiday, the social committee was able to provide funding to have 15 turkeys and food baskets put together, again, to serve people right here in the Norwalk area who were in need during that time period. And then when one of our own had tragedy affect them, we were able, as a department, to raise over $1,600 to support the Ramirez family when they lost their home in a fire recently. And it makes me very proud to work with people who step up and take care of each other in that manner, and I appreciate that. Those are just a few examples. I know we have employees that participate every year in the Heart Walk of the American Heart Association and the Race for the Cure to try and identify a cure for breast cancer and other situations like that. So again, we're a very active group of employees, and you should be proud of that. So let me walk through some departmental highlights for you, a little bit of historical information, because I know we have people here who have worked for the county or the department for many years, and others who are fairly new to the county or new to the department. We're sort of a unique department in that we do several different functions, but they don't necessarily relate to one another. So I often joke, and I see some of our friends in the back row who have sat through 4 of these presentations, and they're probably tired of these jokes, but I always like to say that when they were organizing county government into departments, they took everything that didn't fit somewhere else, and they added a hyphen and a slash and called it the Registrar-Recorder County Clerk. And so that's how we have that hyphen up there in our name and that slash. We really oversee 3 very distinct functions, and historically they were 3 different county departments. There was the Registrar of Voters, the Recorder, County Recorder, and the County Clerk. In 1968, the departments of Registrar of Voters and County Clerk were merged by the Board of Supervisors into a single department, and then later in 1991, the County Clerk functions were brought over from the Superior Court, and that's how the department that we are today came to be. For many years, even after the merger, those departments were all in 3 different separate facilities and really functioned still as 3 different entities. And it was in July of 1993 when the department was finally brought together in one single facility here in Norwalk, and that's when we came to this building. So that just gives you a little bit of a historical background on how our department came to be. So we again have those 3 very distinct functions. Then we have the Administration Bureau that provides our administrative support, our human resources, our budget, our finance, pays the bills, makes sure that our facilities are in order, and those types of functions. And then we have the Technical Services Bureau that supports our systems and our computer infrastructure and telecommunications to ensure that we're able to do those 3 separate functions. Our budget is about $178 million per year, and right now we have just over 960 full-time permanent employees in the department. So just to give you a little perspective on the size and the scope of the organization that you're a member of. I'm going to go through each of the areas of the office, again, just because I think it's important for you all to know, regardless of where you work, the scope of the work that's done here. We are, LA County is the largest county in the United States, and in every function, those 3 functions that I just talked about, we do more volume and more work than any of our colleagues in the same business throughout the country, and these numbers speak to that, and I think reflect really well. It's quite amazing when I talk to colleagues in other areas of the country, even people from larger sized counties here in California or other places, they're just amazed that we're able to produce the amount of work that we produce here in LA County. And these numbers speak to that. So in our public records area, birth, death, and marriage and vitals, just to give you a perspective, we file just under 1 million records each year here in this building. So that represents paper documents that have to come here and be processed, and then we maintain those as the permanent record of births, deaths, and marriages here for LA County. I mentioned that we implemented last year the LA Vital system, so we moved off of our old mainframe system to the new cashiering system and the new kiosk system that you see in the lobby. Very successful project that was done in-house in partnership with our tech services staff and the line staff who knew what they needed in order to best serve our customers. We were able to do that economically, much lower cost than if we'd have gone out to a commercial vendor to try and buy a system that could handle the amount of records that we deal with on a daily basis. We offer now credit and debit card services as payment options for people who come in for those records. That was new last year. And to give you an idea, we serve an average of 2,000 customers in person here in this building that come in and out of our building on a day-to-day basis, most of those in the birth, death, and marriage area and in the document recording area. Now, the challenges for public records, of course, are we all see the lines that begin to form outside the front of our building, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is the nature of the new system. Those self-service kiosks are designed for the customer to be able to do the initial lookup themselves. And our first floor configuration was not designed for that type of a system, so we've had to try and reconfigure it to make it work for that. So I have asked the Document Recording Division and the Public Records Division to work together on a feasibility study of how we might realign things so that those lines are able to be accommodated in a different way rather than outside on the sidewalk and down the hall. If for no other reason, I don't think it's an accurate reflection of our commitment to customer service and quality when people drive by the building or when they come here for other services. I don't think it reflects well on all of you and your work. Not that you're not doing quality work, because you are, but when it's really hot outside or when it's raining and people are standing in those lines, it doesn't convey the impression that we want. So that's a challenge working with you that we hope to solve in the next year. Marriage licenses, again, just so you have an idea of we're responsible for issuing marriage licenses for people who get married in the County of Los Angeles. We issue close to 60,000 marriage licenses each year, so we're facilitating a lot of love out there in the community. Again, an automation effort that we put in place there. You can now fill out your marriage application. Couples can go on our website and complete those applications online from their home or from somewhere outside of our building. Then when they come here to pick up their license, the data is already there and it streamlines the process for them as well as for us. So a great program there. Again, a partnership all done in-house with our staff. We also are really proud to have a volunteer civil marriage commissioner program. We actually perform over 11,000 civil marriage ceremonies out of the department each year, whether that's here in Norwalk or in our 6 district offices. And instead of pulling people away from their day-to-day work to perform those marriage ceremonies, we have a volunteer program where we bring in retirees who we commission as deputy marriage commissioners to perform those ceremonies. That allows for a little bit of a nicer ceremony for the couples that are getting married here in our building, but also frees up our staff to continue to meet the volume of work that we talked about earlier. So it's a great partnership with the community. And speaking of our district offices, hopefully you all are aware that in addition to our headquarters here in Norwalk, we have 6 district offices that are located throughout Los Angeles County, mainly providing vital records and document recording, some of them document recording services. And they do a great job for us. Last year we reopened the Van Nuys office. It was completely refurbished and now has greater capacity to serve the people in that area. Our Florence Firestone office has been closed for the last year for renovation, but will be reopening soon. And again, will now be on the first floor, so much more accessible and better set up to serve the public. And just so you have a little bit of an idea, what's shown on this chart is the volume of transactions that are taking place at those district offices. And if we didn't have those district offices, all of these transactions would have to be taken care of here in Norwalk. So those lines would be longer and we would be seeing increased volume that we would have to deal with here. So the district offices serve both our needs as well as the community's needs, and really historically have been a very cost-effective program. They're located in other government facilities, so our overhead is very low to provide those district offices, yet we're able to produce a lot of work out of those district offices as well. Document recording, those of you who work in document recording, you should be proud and wear as a badge of honor the fact that you are the bread and butter of this department. That's where our revenue comes from. That's where we make our money, is through the document recording area. And again, phenomenal volume. We publicly record close to $2 million, not $2 million, 2 million records each year out of this facility. And right now, that represents, again, paper documents that have to come here and be filed and kept as a permanent record. And each of those documents has multiple pages. So it is a lot of paper coming in and out of our facilities and being added to the public record. And those are not only important records for the people that are parties to the transaction, but those records are depended upon by other governmental entities to do their jobs. So law enforcement, the assessor's office, health services, any number of different agencies rely on the records that we have on file here in our office to do their job. We're able to, in 2009, we were able to offer those agencies the ability to enter into an interlocal agreement where they can actually access our records indexes from their offices now, instead of having to send somebody down here to Norwalk to sit at one of our public terminals to get that information. So that's an overall, again, a savings for us because we keep our public terminals available for members of the public, but overall a savings for the public because those other government agencies are not paying an employee to travel back and forth to Norwalk to get that information. Again, just to put that into perspective for you, the amount of records that we have publicly preserved and on file here in this building is about 160 million records, documents, and that is second only to the Pentagon in terms of total public records collections in the United States. So the only entity in the United States that has more public records on file other than this office is the Pentagon. So that's a pretty phenomenal amount of work that's done there. So again, some great highlights in the document recording area is we've now been on our new enterprise recording archive system for, I guess, 3 years now, when we won the Golden Eagle Award from the Productivity and Quality Commission on that back in 2007. That, again, was a system that was developed in partnership between those of you who actually do the work of document recording and our Technical Services Bureau, and we were able to do that all in-house without going out to a commercial vendor. So a great example of innovation and automation. And this year we just launched the electronic recording system, and we're slowly implementing that. That's a system that allows title companies and document submitters to actually file their documents directly from their office. It comes to us as an electronic document. We're able to index it, add it to the public record, collect the fees through an electronic payment option, and they never have to come to our office, and in some cases we don't even have to produce a paper record. So it's great in terms of efficiency and automation, and will, over the long haul, really revolutionize the way we do document recording and make us even more efficient in the future. This chart just gives you an idea of the volume, and I want to key into a couple things on this chart, because when I get to talking about our fiscal climate, I'm going to come back to some of what you see in this chart. This shows you the trend of documents recorded over the course of 2000 through 2009. And again, remember that I said that's where we get our revenue. Our primary source of revenue in this department is document recording. And of course, document recording is dependent on what? The real estate market. So if houses aren't selling, if people aren't refinancing their homes, then our volume of documents that gets recorded is affected by that, and likewise our revenue is affected by that. So you can see, and those of you who work in document recording are very familiar with this, that back in the early 2000s, we saw this housing boom happen in LA County, where by 2003, we recorded almost 4 million documents that year. And if you were working here, then you know that it was just, it took everybody and every resource just to try and get those records recorded and into the system on a timely basis. But we were bringing in a lot of revenue during that time period too. And that was back before we had the new recording system. So we were on the mainframe system. It was a much more complicated process and manual process to process those documents. So we added a lot of staff during that time period because we were bringing in increased revenue, and we needed to meet the legal deadlines to get those documents on file. But what's happened since 2003? Well, you can see that really in the last 5 years, the real estate market has just crashed in LA County. The economy has affected that. Housing prices have gone down, and the real estate market has just plummeted down to 2008, where we were about half of the documents recorded that we were back in 2003. And you can see it just was a very fast move back down. In 2008, we were back down to the level that we were at in 2000. Now in 2009, we saw a little bit of a tick upwards. So it looks like maybe we're seeing some signs of recovery, but the difference that you can see is that's going to be a much slower move back up than the move down from 2003. So you see the difference from 2007 to 2008, you see this dramatic drop, and then from 08 to 09, it's again just a very small bump up. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the fiscal situation, but this has a direct impact on the county's budget and our department budget, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. So you'll recall this chart when we get to that. Let's switch over to the election side. Again, want you to know that we are the largest elections jurisdiction in the United States. We have 4.3 million registered voters right now that we serve. That's more registered voters than the history of LA County, so we really have peaked in the last 2 years. It's also more registered voters than any other jurisdiction throughout the country. So we are dealing with just a huge and diverse population. We provide language assistance in 6 different languages other than English, and I see some of our language expertise here in the room today. That's a phenomenal challenge, and we're recognized across the nation for the work we do in that area. But to put that into perspective, if you go back to the November 2008 presidential election, there were days in a single day where we would take in 20,000 voter registration applications in a single day. And voter registration is a very manual process. You get a hand-completed form that comes in. It has to be manually reviewed, and all of those forms have to be added into our voter registration system in a timely manner in order to ensure that when people show up on election day to vote, that their name is listed in the roster and that they get the opportunity to participate in the election. So huge volume and a huge challenge to meet that, and you all really stepped up to that challenge and did a great job. That, of course, translates into our phone call volume, right? Because the people who are filling out those forms, waiting to find out where their polling place is, get antsy, they get excited because they know the election's coming up, and so they get on the phone to find out what they need. So again, average phone calls normally in a countywide election would be about 3,500 phone calls on a day-to-day basis. That's pretty phenomenal in and of itself. Back in October of 2008, prior to the election, we had a day where we actually logged in 35,000 phone calls in a single day leading up to the election. And working cooperatively with you and your fellow employees who were on those phones, we were able to identify what was the information that most of those phone calls were seeking. Most of them were some pretty basic things. They wanted to confirm whether or not they're registered to vote. They wanted to find out where their polling place was. They wanted to find out if they could get a vote by mail ballot. And again, with the feedback we received from our employees, we were able to then develop applications on our website that allow people to verify that information now online without having to go through our phone system. So another example of innovation and automation that really came from the feedback that we get from you as employees. I want to give you a visual perspective of what that means for us. That 4.3 million registered voter figure, that means that we here in Los Angeles County, in a single county, have more registered voters than the total number of registered voters in 36 of the 50 states in the United States. So when you look at this map, all of these blue states, the full state has fewer registered voters than we have here in Los Angeles County. So what that means, it's a great opportunity but great challenge. It means that we're trying to conduct elections and we're still required to have everything in place under the same time frames and under the same laws that jurisdictions with far fewer registered voters have to deal with. And people are amazed at our ability to do that. I'm amazed at our ability to do that. And again, it's a reflection of the people who work here and who are dedicated to those efforts. Another example of that is the vote by mail area. Increasingly, voters are self-selecting to be permanent vote by mail voters. They're asking to be able to receive their ballot by the mail, through the mail, to vote it and mail it back rather than going to polling places on election day. This shows you the trend in vote by mail. We actually were at a new records in 2008 where we were at 1 million, over 1 million vote by mail ballots that were issued. Again, those physical packets were all compiled and put together here in this building and sent out to over 1 million registered voters. 850,000 of those came back in the mail and had to be processed during the election. And again, all that work is done here by those of you who work in those areas. Again, to put that into perspective, that's about 25% of our registered voters. So out of 4.3 million, we have about a quarter of our voters voting by mail. Now, our neighboring states and our neighboring counties are seeing an even higher trend of vote by mail, where some counties here in California, half of their registered voters are voting by mail. The state of Oregon and the state of Washington conduct their entire elections process by mail. And what that means is that we should be anticipating that by the next presidential election, we will easily have 2.5 to 3 million of our registered voters likely voting through the mail. And we have to be prepared to process those ballots while also setting up the polling places and conducting the elections on a regular basis. And so, again, you take an example of Oregon. The entire state is vote by mail, yet we issue more vote by mail ballots here in LA County than any county in the state of Oregon, and we're only at 25% of our voters. So it's something that we need to be prepared for and thinking about as we move into the future. The other thing that we're facing on the election side, and many of you have probably heard me talk about this, is our voting system is based on very old technology. We have the IncaVote Plus voting system. It was a migration of the old punch card voting system. It served us well. It was actually developed in-house by the county's ISD department back in the 60s and has migrated and kept pace with law changes and regulatory changes. But the reality is that it's outdated technology that is going to be obsolete fairly soon, and we need to be prepared to replace it. But here's the challenge: because of our size, because there is no other jurisdiction like LA County, there is not a system available on the commercial market today that can meet our needs. It just doesn't exist. So we find ourselves in a situation where we have to prepare to move to a new system that doesn't exist yet. Nobody's building a system that will serve 4.3 million registered voters and that can offer voting information in 6 different languages other than English, and that can serve the diversity of our population. So we launched in the fall of 2009, we launched what we're calling the Voting Systems Assessment Project, where we're going out into the community and trying to identify, in partnership with our stakeholders here in LA County, what they want in a voting system when they think about what's important when they go to vote and what they want to have and see at the polling places. We're gathering all of that information, and then we're going to build from that. We're going to go out and seek proposals and likely work in some sort of a development project to develop a voting system that will be designed to meet the needs of LA County. And really, that's the same process that we went through when we replaced our LA Vital system and our recorder system. And those processes have served us well, and we hope to duplicate that on the election side. Great news that we just recently received on that is that in order to do that stakeholder engagement, to go out and have focus groups and community meetings, rather than using our limited resources within our own budget, we were able to get a grant in partnership with the California Institute of Technology and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology that is going to fund those focus groups and those community meetings. So we're going to get really good data from that, but we're going to be able to retain our resources, our limited resources, to help pay for that system once we've identified its availability. So it's a very fascinating process. We've got an element on our website. If you click on Voting Systems Assessment Project, it's going to be done in a very open and public manner, and you can follow along with that if you have an interest in that. So again, the idea was just to get us all on the same page. So when you think about whether you work down in vital records, or if you work in document analysis and review, business filings and registration, or vote by mail, that hopefully now you have the perspective that when you tell people where you work, you have the full broad perspective of the work that's done here and can speak of the successes and the challenges that we all face within the department. So now let's talk about the fiscal climate. Again, I know that that's something that we're all concerned about. Without a doubt, every one of us in this room knows somebody who's been impacted by the economic crisis here in our community, our state, and our nation. We know somebody who's either lost a job, lost their home, or who are struggling during these economic times. And we need to be mindful of that. We need to be mindful of that both in terms of recognizing that those things affect our fellow employees, the people we work with here in the department, but it also is a reflection of the people who are coming here for our services, the people who are coming here to get documents from the vital records area. Right now, some of the increase that we're seeing in that is because people are in need of having copies of their birth certificate or their marriage certificate in order to receive public service to help them get through these difficult times. If they have to apply for unemployment or if they have to change their health insurance over to their spouse's plan because of a job loss or something of that nature. So it's important that we keep that in the back of our mind, that we're helping people through a very difficult time in our economy, both internally and externally. And while that's certainly a challenge, because as you saw, and we'll see in a minute, the impact that the economic conditions have had on our revenue on the county department, it's also an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for us to really dig deep and look at the innovation and automation that has been the hallmark of this department, and to be able to step up to the plate and show our community that we can continue to provide high-quality services despite those difficult times and economic challenges. And you have shown the ability to do that over the last 2 fiscal years, and I'm confident that we'll be able to continue to do that. So let me tell you just a little bit about how we're funded as a department, because again, the diversity of our functions, sometimes it's not real obvious how our funding works. If you look at this pie chart, over here on the right side, these top 3 triangles, that represents the document recording revenue that we bring in. So when I said that the document recorder area is our bread and butter, that's what I mean, that the majority of our revenue that we bring in as a department comes from that area. Some of that revenue is special revenue funds. It's collected and can only be used for particular services. So some of you might be familiar with the Social Security Truncation Project, which was a new task given to us by the state legislature on the recorder side. We collect a portion of our document recording fee is specifically dedicated to supporting that particular project. So that's what these special revenue funds are. So elections, a big part of our overall department responsibility, but only brings in a small amount of revenue. Elections are not a money maker. They actually cost a lot of money. We do make a little bit of revenue when other districts consolidate onto our elections or contract with us to provide them with election services, but for the most part, there's very little revenue that comes in on the election side. On the left side, what you see, that largest piece of the pie, about 46% of our budget in the current fiscal year, that's general fund county revenue. That's the money that we go downtown and ask the Chief Executive Officer and the Board of Supervisors to dedicate to supporting the work that's done in this department. And I want you to think back to that chart where I showed you back in 2003 when our document recording revenue was so high. At that time, this piece of the pie was much smaller, and these were much larger because we were actually self-sufficient on a much broader basis. Our revenue was supporting the work of this department. But as we've lost that revenue, we've had to go down each year and ask the county for more general fund support. And when we do that, we're competing with all the other county departments. So we're competing with law enforcement, we're competing with health services, the assessor's office, the treasurer tax collector, the full range of county services. And of course, the county as a whole has less money to divide amongst those departments. So that loss of recorder revenue really impacts us, and that's what we've seen in the last couple of years. This, again, just gives you that perspective. This chart shows, the chart I showed you before was actually the documents recorded. This shows a reflection of the revenue we brought in from those documents. So you can see the green or the greenish-brown line show on a monthly basis in 2008 what our revenue was like, and then the purple line is the 2009 revenue. So you can see about halfway through 2009, things started looking a little better. We were starting to move back up where we were bringing in more revenue than we did in 2008. And then this blue line over here shows the January of this year. Again, at least looks like we're continuing on that pattern where the revenue is starting to go back up. But again, that's going to be a very slow climb. And then on the flip side, on the election side, as I said, elections don't make much money, but boy, elections cost a lot of money. That you can see here from 2000 to 2009, this is the amount of money that cost our department to conduct elections here in LA County. And you can see, It's got sort of a steady increase, and then it absolutely just jumped in 2008, 2009. Part of that is because of some law changes, new regulations, new programs that were required by law to do, and they cost money. Elections is one of those things where you can't really cut corners, because if you don't conduct an election right, it's a big deal. So right now we're spending over $41 million on an annual basis, or on a fiscal year basis, to conduct elections. And those of you on the election side know that we're also pretty much conducting elections continuously now, where there used to be gaps between elections. Now the frequency of our elections is much more often, and there's a cost associated with that. So that creates the dynamic that we find ourselves in, that we've got document recording revenue, which is our bread and butter, decreasing while the cost of conducting elections is going up. Yet we're still asked, to the extent possible, by the county to try and self-fund our department. Well, very difficult to do in these economic times. So how have we done that? Because this has been a three budget years that we've been dealing with this dynamic. Well, again, we've done it primarily through automation and innovation. The fact that we were able to replace and modernize our vital system and our recorder system in-house with our tech services staff, huge savings. To go out and do that through a commercial vendor would cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars that the county just doesn't have right now. So we've been really able to sell that downtown, that we've been fiscally responsible and been successful, and that's paid off for us. In 2008 and 2009, we were asked to make curtailments. We were asked to reduce our budget because of the county's situation. We were able to do that through the elimination of vacant positions. So some of those positions that were added during the real estate boom, when those became vacant, when people retired and there were vacant positions available, we were able to give up the funding for those positions, and that's what preserved the jobs that are filled in our department. It enabled us to be able to make those cuts and meet the budget requirements without affecting our current workforce. We also were able to reduce overtime through efficiency and automation, and we've looked at new ways of doing training, where we're doing training in-house rather than sending people outside to training. All of those things add up to savings and efficiencies that have allowed us to continue to provide high-quality services to our customers, but also preserve our employees. That's getting harder. I want to be honest about that. That's getting harder and harder to do. We just recently submitted our budget for the 2010-2011 fiscal budget, and we were asked to make a 9% cut. A 9% of that larger piece of the pie that you saw in the pie chart, we had to reduce that by 9% in order to balance, to meet the demands of the budget request. And again, we were able to do that without affecting our current workforce, but we're really down to the bare bones now. So what happens next is all of the departments submitted those budgets. They have to be added up. The CEO and the Board of Supervisors has to look at that, look at our financial landscape, and it's very likely that they'll come back to us and ask us to make more cuts, and we'll have to work with you. We're going to need to put our heads together and find out, are there other places where we can identify more efficiencies, where we can automate our process, still meet our requirements, and do more with less. That's just the reality that we're all living in. Not just here at work, we're all dealing with that at home too, right? Because of the economic situation, and it's no different here at the Registrar-Recorder. But by focusing on a unified purpose and a set of goals, despite the diversity of our functions, if we can find those common areas where between the county clerk, the recorder, and the registrar of voters, where we can work together, I believe that we can find those efficiencies and we can continue to provide those services. And that leads to a discussion of our mission statement and goal areas. Up here in the corner, you see this graphic which talks about attributes that I think are reflected in the employees who work in this department. Respect, responsibility, and professionalism. And it's really the combination of those three things, those three attributes, that creates a team atmosphere where we can identify those efficiencies and ways to work through these difficult times. And that's what our new mission statement is about. And some people ask, what is a mission statement? Why do we need a mission statement? Well, a mission statement is really, it's our roadmap, it's our focal point, so that when you get up in the morning and come to work, you should be able to, in your mind, relate the work that you're doing, no matter where you work. You should be able to relate that to some end goal, some purpose that we're all involved in being a part of. And that's important because we all need to feel like we're a part of something that's meaningful and that makes a difference. And we need to be able to convey that to the people who provide us our resources. So I need to be able to go downtown and convey the work that we do here and our request for money to support our department to something that's tangible that serves the community of Los Angeles County. So obviously the mission statement is really about all of you. It's about the work that you do. And how do we measure our success, whether or not we're meeting our mission? Well, we learn that through the awards and recognition that we saw earlier in the presentation. We learn that through the public trust and confidence that people have in the work that we do here, through our performance evaluations and our performance measures that we report to the CEO. So here you go. Here is our mission statement. Serving Los Angeles County, providing essential records management and election services in a fair, accessible, and transparent manner. A simple statement, one I hope you'll become very familiar with. I've been warning everybody that in a couple days I'm going to start asking people in the elevator and in the halls to tell me what our mission statement is. So be forewarned if I see you in the hall. I've already tested a few people up here on the 7th floor. They're doing pretty good. But this mission statement is something that no matter where you work in the department, you should be able to relate your work to this mission statement in one way or another. So let me take just a moment to dig into this a little bit further so I'm sure that we all leave here on the same page about what we mean by these words. When we talk about essential services, when we say that we're providing essential records management and election services, the key word in that phrase is essential. And what do we mean by essential? What we mean by essential is that the services we provide here in this department, they're not optional services. They're not services that people can go and shop around for. You can't go and find out if you can get a better deal on a birth certificate at Target or at Macy's. You can't go and check to make sure you're registered to vote or where your polling place is at Vons or at Ralph's. I mean, it doesn't exist. The functions we provide, and I think this is really important for all of you to remember, that the work that we do here is stuff that people depend on us. They rely on us for these services because they can't get them anywhere else. So if you think about that in terms of voting, in order for the citizens of Los Angeles County to ensure that their voice can be heard, that they can be a participant in our democratic form of government, they depend on us accurately processing their voter registration form, successfully locating and notifying them of a polling place, sending them a sample ballot that tells them about the election. If we don't do that, they lose their opportunity to vote or to participate in our democracy. So that's an essential service that we're relied upon in order to do that. Same thing is true on our records side of the house. When people need to get a certified copy of their birth certificate in order to get a passport so that they can go visit a family member outside of the country, they rely on us having that birth certificate on file here and our ability to produce that for them so that they can do that. I talked earlier about the people who need public services. If they need a copy of their marriage certificate to facilitate getting health insurance, they rely on us. It's essential that we have that certificate on file here and that they can get that from us. It's true across the board, whether it's campaign finance, where the public relies on us to have a record of where our elected officials and our candidates are raising their money and how they're spending that money. The business filing and registration, where they depend on us having a record of the names of the fictitious businesses in LA County and being able to file their business registration here. They can't do it anywhere else. They are essential services that they can only get from the work that you all do. So it's important that we recognize them as essential services and that we approach them regardless of what you're doing. You should be able to recall that you're providing something that's very essential to the people of Los Angeles County. So then we talk about that we're going to provide those services in a fair, accessible, and transparent manner. So I want to talk a little bit about what we mean by fair, accessible, and transparent. When it comes to fairness, quite simply what we mean by fair is that the services and assistance that we provide out of this department should be provided without regard to race, ethnicity, gender, political views, religious views, or physical ability. Really, it's about equality. It means that anybody who comes to us for services deserves the respect and the professionalism that we offer anybody else in the delivery of those essential services. And that also extends internally to how we relate to one another within the department. We need to treat each other with that same fairness and equality because we depend on each other to get our jobs done as well. So you're not only essential to the public that we serve, but you're essential to the people sitting on your right and your left here in the room and in the building as well. Accessible. When we say accessible, really what we mean there is that our services are going to be available in locations and during hours that best serve the public that we exist to serve. So we do that through our district offices. We do it through once a month when we extend the hours on Thursdays to allow for customers who can't get here during regular hours. And that's really the focus of our automation on the website, of making as many services available and as much information as available on our website to customers so they can get that when we're not open as well. But accessibility also on a very day-to-day basis really also means that you as an individual employee are doing what you can to eliminate obstacles or roadblocks to people's ability to get the service that you're involved in providing. So if that means that you're wearing a badge and somebody needs some help to be directed to where in the building they go to file a fictitious business name, that you're going to assist them with that. If it means that if the receptionist from the executive office calls you because they have a difficult customer service question, that you're going to be available to help eliminate those roadblocks and get those people what they need. That's what we mean by accessibility. And finally, transparent. What we mean by transparent is that our work is accountable, that the public has the ability to see, touch, and feel the work that we do here because our services belong to the public, right? They don't belong to us. The voting process doesn't belong to this department or to us as individuals. It belongs to the public. We just facilitate it. So that means if stakeholder groups or individual voters want to come here and watch how we process ballots, watch to see how secure our systems are, or if they want to come here and access those public records, because that's what we're all about is public records, then we're going to make terminals available for them to do that. We're going to make our records accessible to them. We're going to make our elections processes open, and we're going to answer their questions when we do that. So we're going to do it in a very open and accountable manner. So from that mission statement, then we draw down into goal areas that are kind of where do we want to go in the next year in the Registrar-Recorder County Clerk Department. And our management team has really defined those into 4 goal areas. And I want to go through these. I know I'm keeping you here a while, but I want to go through these real quickly and ask you to try and identify within the work that you do where that work fits in these particular goal areas of customer service, election services and records management, fiscal responsibility, and staff development. So the first goal area is customer service. Our goal there is to promote transparency, accuracy, and accessibility of information through quality customer service and effective use of information technology. So the question you should be asking yourself with regard to customer service is, what elements of your job relate to customer service? What about the work that you're doing is about customer service? And there are examples throughout the building where people are doing that on a regular basis. Jacqueline Johnson in the campaign finance area, who has displayed a great talent for analyzing sensitive data and really digging into the campaign finance disclosure documents, working with county council on very difficult and politically sensitive issues. She's doing that because she can relate the work that she does on a daily basis to customer service. Max Medina in the document recording area, when he's dealing with difficult customer service issues or customer complaints, he can relate that to our value and our goal of customer service. And we should all be able to do that, to find some element of our job that relates to that goal area. Goal area 2 is election services and records management. Our goal there is to develop and maximize leading edge and innovative solutions that foster accountable and transparent election services and public records. This is really our operational goal. This is the real clear and concise element of the work that we do here. The question for you there is, what about your job enhances our election services if you're on the election side? Or what about your job enhances the records management functions of our office? Examples there are people like Delbert Johnson in the vote by mail area, where you see that huge increase in the number of people voting by mail and our need to deal with that volume without increasing the cost of doing our business. And Delbert's really stepped up to that as a leader in that area. Same thing, Latasha Atterbury in the document recording area, who has been recognized by her ability to process an enormous amount of work in a short period of time and to be available and flexible to deal with difficult customers as those situations occur. That's showing a commitment to our records management function. Goal area number 3, fiscal responsibility. This is something where I think it's easy to kind of wave this off and say fiscal responsibility is the job of the accountants and the budget folks, that we're just operational folks. But actually we all share a responsibility in making sure that we're fiscally accountable to the public that we serve. So the goal there is to enhance our organizational effectiveness and achieve efficiencies by streamlining and improving business processes. So the question for you there is, in what ways are you helping to ensure the fiscal responsibility of our department? Great examples there are partnerships that we're seeing where the document recording division and the finance and management staff from the administrative bureau have looked at where we used to use a private mail service to return documents to customers. We're now looking at bringing that in-house, where we can do that through our own mailroom and a cooperative effort between 2 of our bureaus. That's going to save money, and that's going to enable us to reduce our requests for general fund money downtown. Likewise, the nature of the Technical Services Bureau and all the automation efforts that we've been talking about, working in partnership with all of you to figure out how we can take the investment that we've made in technology and use that to make us more productive and efficient, is an example of how people are helping us to be fiscally responsible. And finally, the last goal area is our commitment to staff development. And we want to be sure that we're developing succession planning programs and training opportunities that promote a qualified and diverse workforce. And again, we all play a part in that. And so the question you want to ask yourself there is, are you learning and sharing information that contributes to the sustainability of our services and to the development of others? And I really want to key into that part of that goal, that's the development of others, that we all have the opportunity through our work to ensure that we're helping to develop our coworkers and to develop our own skills. And some great work there done that sort of is an example of how you can do that, get outside of the box a little bit, is Edward Sumkan in the Administrative Bureau. He's the person who came to management and said, I'd like to start this Toastmasters program that we do on Wednesday. Doesn't really relate necessarily to his day-to-day work, but he saw a need and a desire amongst people here in the building to want to build their skill levels. And it was through that idea that we've grown this program that's now serving not just people here in our building, but people in the community as well. Edward's also identified a program that will be sending information out in the coming months through Cal State Northridge that will allow people on their own time and with their own resources who want to pursue their college education. If you want to complete your undergraduate degree, or if you have an undergraduate degree and want to pursue a master's in public administration, we're working on a partnership with Cal State Northridge that will allow you to do that by taking classes here in our building using our facilities. So again, we can't necessarily help with the tuition, we can't give you time off for that, but what we can do is provide a convenient location for you to pursue those educational goals. So that's an example of how one of your peers, somebody here in the department, has committed himself to a goal of staff development. And that's just one example of many. The other thing I want to mention there is that the union is offering opportunities for you to take training in Microsoft Office products. So if you want to improve your word processing skills, learn how to do spreadsheets or PowerPoint presentations, there are opportunities to take those classes here, and that's being paid for by your union. I really want to encourage you to take advantage of that as well. So again, the idea here is to introduce you to the 4 goal areas, to introduce you to the mission statement, and ask you to think about how your work relates to that. And I want to ask you to have the courage that if you're doing something that you can't relate to one of these goal areas or that doesn't relate to the mission statement, I want you to bring that to our attention. I want you to let your supervisor know. Send me an email if you want to let me know that, because if we're not doing stuff that's aligned with that mission statement, then we need to realign our work, because we don't have resources to do work that's not directly related to our mission. So I want your help in that as well. And to help you with that, when you leave today, we're providing you all a personal copy of the mission statement to help you memorize it, and encourage you to put this at your desk. Have it be your focal point, something that you see on a daily basis to remind you of the essential nature of the work that you're doing in the community. So finally, moving ahead, we've talked a lot about the volume of work, the challenges we face, and the current situation. And I think the way that we get through that is to continue to focus on what we've done so well in this department, and that is having a commitment to our work, that recognizing that we're doing something that's more than a job. We're providing essential services that really help our coworkers and help the people in our communities, and that we are making a difference. I want to focus on the fact that the way the success of our department is measured really comes down to public trust and confidence. That relates again back to the whole nature of essential services, is the public needs to have the confidence that we have their records on file here, and they need to have the trust that we're handling the elections process in a fair and equal manner. And public trust and confidence is built over the course of a long period of time. It's built by people having a successful transaction here in our building. It's built by people having confidence that they were able to find their polling place and cast their ballot on election day. But the reality is that public trust and confidence, while it's built over a long period of time, can be lost in an instant. It can be lost by not having that record on file, or having somebody show up to vote on election day and find that their name's not on the list and that they're not able to participate in an election. So we have a huge responsibility of maintaining that trust and that confidence despite the economic challenges that we're facing right now. And I want us all to share in that. You've done a great job on that, and I believe that we will continue to do that through focus, vision, and determination, building relationships and partnerships, whether that's internal, where we're building partnerships across division lines and section lines in order to find some new efficient way of doing something better, like the example of the mailing back the documents that I talked about, or whether it's an external partnership where we're reaching out to the community through our Community Voter Outreach Committee, or this grant that we were able to receive in order to help with the voting technology project. There's an old quote, one of my favorite quotes is that management is about taking care of things today, and leadership is about what's possible tomorrow. I think because of our size and because we're LA County, the largest jurisdiction in the country, everybody looks to us to be a leader. So there's sort of an inherent belief that LA County will be a leader. Sacramento, the state legislature, expects LA County to step up to the plate and lead. Washington, D.C. expects us to lead. But I think the real question here in these times is, what are we going to do with that opportunity, and what are we going to do with that leadership role? And what I'm asking you to do is to work in partnership with me and with the management team here to find ways to be more efficient, more effective, and to continue to provide high-quality services to the people of Los Angeles County. I'm very proud to work with all of you and very appreciative of the work you do, and I hope you know that and that you'll convey that to your coworkers. The question form that was handed out, if you have questions you want to ask me, if you'll pass those to the middle, I'm going to take a few of those. If we don't get to them today, I'm going to try and respond to those questions through our intranet site. You're going to soon be seeing, probably even popping up on your computer when you turn it on in the morning, a process that allows you to identify efficiencies and innovations, things that you think will help us to do a better job during these fiscal times. I really want to encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities, because you are the ones who know best whether or not we're really meeting the goals that we talked about in our mission statement. So I thank you for that. I thank you for sitting through the presentation, and look forward to successfully moving through these challenges with you in the future.